cover at least one of the most controversial questions that I've heard on the internet before. And it's really interesting and then also drama like. I'm gonna get a lot of reactions, but we're gonna go ahead and cover it now. Now, our prompt here is that we're going to analyze the question, quote unquote, would you marry a raped girl, quote unquote, question mark, without the G in the last word? All right. So, what I really think about this question again, we're going to say it again, quote unquote, would you marry a raped girl, quote unquote? Now, what I really think about this question from my own mindset, chat, is that number one, the term "graped," at least without the J, due to censorship of YouTube, it fails to the word itself fails to account for nuance because it's an adjective that explains what someone has gone or done or went through. All right, it doesn't explain what a person's personality truly is. The problem with this question is that it fails at nuance to a large extent because number one, this question here also raises some random girl that I know who's a victim of this crime. Maybe I'm just meeting her on the streets, or is this my fiance for like 12 months already? It also fails to explain is what is this girl's true personality? What is this girl's personality behind her as a victim? What is her true personality as a person? And that's in the number one and two part. That's what they fail to analyze. Is number one, this question fails to analyze personality, and most importantly, is this person some random girl that I met off of the street who I know is a victim of such a crime, or is this person my fiance or soon to be wedded? That's what this question fails to account for. And obviously, this one's kind of the simple part. Right now, we're gonna go ahead and jump onto the cultural part up next. As I said, for the simpler part, there's definitely an issue with the question in itself, is that it definitely lacks nuance. If she's my fiance, obviously I'm going to marry her soon. If this is some random girl who I know has gone through this and say she's walking down the street, I mean, I'm not just gonna go down and propose to her right on the street and say, quote unquote, would you marry me, quote unquote. Obviously, I would not be saying that. Not That's like that goes for any person. I wouldn't just go to some random girl on the street and say, "Oh, would you marry me?" In front of like everyone. No. In my opinion, that question there fails to look at nuance. As I said again, chat. Number one, these are just my notes again. Again, I don't have a timer on like last time. But we're gonna go ahead and cover out on the really interesting second part is a cultural values. All right, the key issue here that I have with many cultures out there in the US and most importantly out there in the world is that some absolutely tend to value a girl based off of her virginity. That means if she's went through this type of crime, maybe she lost her virginity unnaturally or naturally, uh that would really raise a lot of questions. Is that cultures judging a girl based off of her if she's lost her virginity or not, and if she has painting her as some sort of tainted or dishonest person? I think the key issue with this chat is that this devalues a girl based off of one aspect. All right, the key issue with this culture is that it doesn't define girls and women by their personality. The one big trait that I have in neutrality chats and real life is that when I want a girl, I judge her by her personality, not what she looks like, not the sport she does. I judge her by what she really does in real life. I judge her how she acts with other people. I judge her how she acts with her friends. I judge her by her vibrancy. Is her vibrancy on the lower color of spectrum, or is it in the most highest color of the spectrum, one of the brightest and most sociable people? I judge by those factors. I don't judge if she's lost her virginity or not. And that's the issue that I have with these cultures specifically. I don't know cultural I know that it's a cultural thing. I just don't know that these types of beliefs. All right, these types of beliefs are definitely ingrained, but one key thing that I don't understand is that why? That's the real question here. Is why do some cultures base girls, especially with their personality and all that? What would they base some cultures base it off of if they lost their virginity or not? And that's like one of the most saddest things ever. Basing a girl based off of if she has lost her V card or not, that just fails a lot at a lot of nuance. All right, that's the second cultural part here. Devaluing girls simply because they lost their V card, whether that be unnaturally or naturally. Uh, it fails at a lot of nuance. I've said this again by painting them as a simple binary mentality, painting them into a simplistic binary narrative. It fails to look at people as they really are, not just people of crimes, but people as their personalities truly are. All right, that's when it comes to culture. Failure to look at nuance once again. And then again, we're gonna cover on the last part here polarization. Now, chats, polarization is something that I'm absolutely against all of the time. All right, but then again, I understand it's what makes people deeply human. I understand if it's something like an Inside Edition video or on like the Detroit newspaper. All right, I understand if people may come with polarized reactions. Some people might even send harassment and vigilante justice toward the perpetrators. And ultimately, that's what makes polarization deeply human too. Because of the simple fact that they want to save other people, they want to keep other humans safe, they want to keep us safe, they want to keep me safe, they want to keep everyone who's a victim of this crime or that crime safe. And I absolutely understand. It's what makes them deeply human too. The key issue with this chat, in terms of vigilante justice and harassment, is that it fails to look at due process of the law. We're talking about in the United States of America. Let me make this very clear, chat, is that neutrality here isn't to enable crime. It's not to do that. It's to make sure that to make sure that justice is given properly to both sides, not just given by emotional reactions, not just by the court of public opinion, but rather by the court of law. The key issue with vigilante justice is that it undermines the due process of every person who's accused of a crime, whether that be rape or whether that be petty stealing under $950. Every person who's accused of such crimes, any crime, is presumed innocent until proven guilty by the court of law. All right. Every person in the U.S. chat who is accused of a crime will always be, in my opinion, presumed innocent until proven guilty by the court of law. And the reason that I absolutely assert myself in this chat is that number one, there could absolutely be false allegations. The key with false allegations, chat, is a reason that I don't come to conclusions so early. Like, sure, there might be some sort of Inside Edition video out there claiming that, oh no, this person is to other people. But ultimately, chats, we have to let the courts figure that out. Public opinion is still deeply human, but we have to let due process go for both parties to ensure that justice is given properly to both sides. Alright? Even though the US absolutely works on a two-tier justice system, like a lot of people already know that, the burden of proof still exists for all tiers. First tier, second tier. If there's evidence, then they're going to be convicted. If there's no evidence, or the evidence is found to be fabricated or framed in such a way, then there's going to be a retrial. There's going to be an exoneration. That's the key of the court of law, chat, is that polarization undermines these. And ultimately, too, for me, too, chat, it's also what makes me human, too, as a person. Even though I fight against polarization, I seek to look at both sides without emotion. It doesn't matter if it's the most emotionally charged case ever or the most pettiest case ever, someone stealing like $2 off of a cash register. Case for me needs to be looked at with neutrality. We have to be able to look at both sides without emotion and look at the facts as they're given in such a case. By not coming to conclusions, we also allow flexibility in terms of neutrality, because if there's new information that comes out, if there's new bombshell information that comes out, we can adjust our stance. And of course, we can also be careful too, because neutrality is often cited as being indecisive. When in reality, neutrality here is to make sure that all individuals, victims, and perpetrators are given due process, and most importantly, vigilante justice does not occur. That's even though that might still happen in some cases, but then again, chat still get criticized heavily. Uh, Looking at both sides without coming to conclusions so fast, that's also a human aspect. The human aspect of balance. It's in everyone. It's almost no, way more than everyone. But you guys get what I'm saying here. Alright? Both sides, polarization, neutrality, I don't know, whatever side, still human. Well, regardless of what position you take. I'd understand a lot of people who might say, WTF, Brian, why are you covering this question? I'd also understand, again, if someone asks this question to another person and they might say, WTF, why do you ask that question? I absolutely understand. It's what makes them human. I'd want to give them a hug too. But ultimately speaking, when I'm given such a controversial question, I won't respond back in defensiveness like WTF. As per my own terms of neutrality, we'll always make sure to analyze the question in its full form with respect to all parties involved.